Mm-mm-mm. Just give it 1 minute to allow people to come on. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Ah, hello, Melanie. I tell you, I know this is going to be fire tonight because what can go wrong has gone wrong. So I thank you. I thank you everyone for coming in. Come on in and share because this is going to be good tonight. I'm excited about my guests this evening and what they have to share. This is a different kind of group for me, y'all. And so I'm excited about this. It's something new. Um, as as far as the topic is concerned, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Hope Williams from Faith Walker Ministries, where we are relentless on purpose. And so, this is really a platform that I like to utilize to bring people out that are doing things in the community. My theme for this month is Kingdom Dangerous. And what I mean by Kingdom Dangerous is those that are walking according to the word of the Lord in the kingdom of God to just propel people to healing, to be set free, to live lives full. These are women, these are young women tonight that are coming forward that are doing the doggone thing. I am so excited about the experiences that are on this call tonight. I'm excited about the things that they're learning and that they will share for us to move forward and grow and develop from. I'm very excited about all that I've already heard, and that how we're going to just be able to propel those to a better space of healing. And so I don't want to get too much. And all month I've talked about Kingdom Dangerous. So this theme came from a book that I read from, and let me pull my notes up because I don't, I just blank out when I'm online. But it's more about a book that I read from Dr. Thomas, and it was a book about preaching and how to preach a dangerous sermon. But what I realized out of it was just really understanding that there are topics that sometimes the church doesn't address well, and how you can in the pulpit address these topics and um, cultivate some healing within the community. And but we also have to realize that a lot of our congregants, a lot of the people that are in the congregation, that are in the church body, are out in the community ministering, talking to everyday people that are not in church. They bring all this stuff into the house. They have to deal with all these extra things that are on the side, and we are not getting our brothers and sisters the right health care that they need, mentally or physically. We're not talking about it over the pulpit. And there's a lot of things that we have to address. And so this platform is what I want to use it for, to do that. Um, Again, my name is Hope Williams, and I am from Faith Walker Ministries. And in my background, and I just want to talk about my background a little bit, and then I'm going to ask each one of my panelists to kind of, um, yeah. So some of my experience has been in the. I'm having some technical difficulties, so you might see me pause here for a minute or two, but in the community. I started out in therapy, wanted to go the therapy route. And then I transitioned because, hey, I was a single mom. I needed to survive. And so I started going into computers, doing that, but I just still kept getting pulled to healthcare. So I was in healthcare for a little while, worked in areas in healthcare, and then I went into chaplaincy. And so the God is funny because I still had the psychology part pulled into chaplaincy and being able to care for people. So I've done chaplaincy in hospitals, I've done chaplaincy in prisons, and several different types of locations. And one of the things that I learned just in this past year was the impact it had on the healthcare workers through COVID. And so we're still short of healthcare workers. I noticed how the transition of healthcare, um, for just even the patients is very difficult. It's not as robust as it used to be. Those are the words that I'm going to use, and I'm sure Ashley, Candace, and India can correct me or elaborate a little bit more on that. But I also feel like um, it's a different type of mental health care that we provide now coming out of COVID, and how we strategize to kind of help people. And so one of the things that happened to me is I had early stages of breast cancer. And so I was not alone. I was thankfully, I had people at my church that had experienced it and were able to walk through it with me. I had a very good oncologist, and people that I could talk to and walk through that process. But you know, I, I'm going to be honest. As a healthcare person, I didn't want to ask for help right away, and and it was not a good experience initially. I prayed my way through. You can't just pray your way through. Sometimes you got to talk about it to people that have been where you are, and there are things that you experience that you don't realize that other people have experienced or where they are with it, or even just the fact that maybe your testimony or the things that you have experienced will help them transition out of, like, if they're having chemo or if they're dealing with radiation. And I had one woman, bless her, bless her, bless her, she walked me through every step. You're going to experience this. It wasn't a shock to me. But I tell you, the biggest thing for me was the fact that I had to, and I don't want to be graphic, but what bothered me the most was the process of doing the radiation. You know, all the people that have to see you physically, it really messed with my self-esteem.
Looked like she dropped off there for a second.
The devil be mad. He
We
mad.
be doing the most.
We doing the most.
Doing
He
the
ain't gonna
most.
stop this stuff.
Amen.
There you go.
There she go.
Yeah. So that's my cue. I'm going to let India kind of introduce herself and talk about her story as well.
Hey everybody that's on. Oh man, thank you so much, Hope, for even allowing me to be here with you guys tonight. I'm so excited. So as Hope has stated, I am India Congleton. I am by profession a teacher. Um, I'm also the founder of River Culture. It is a it's a group that we help people to flow into their purpose, essentially, is what we do, right? And so even when in the realm of mental health, a lot of times we struggle with our mental health because we don't know what our next steps are. Very similar to Hope. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. So I do understand as to what you are speaking of. It took a toll on my mental health. And I too, prayed my way through. Not to say that that's not correct. It's just a piece of it, right? And I think that's what this conversation will show tonight, that it's a piece of it, a very prominent piece, right? But a piece of it, nevertheless. So that's me. That's what I do. That's who I am. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, India, for sharing that. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. Miss Ashley.
Hi, everybody who's on. My name is Ashley. I am a licensed professional clinical counselor here in Ohio. I am a school counselor full-time, but I also am a business owner part-time. I do telehealth therapy for clients in the state of Ohio. So as long as you're in Ohio, you are able to see me as long as you're good with telehealth. I started the business in the heart of COVID. So September 2020 is when I started my business. And I started this business because I wanted to give a safe space for women, especially Black women, to be able to talk about our struggles, not only as human beings, but in the midst of COVID, because we know that COVID shook us to our core. So I wanted to give space to women and people of color to feel themselves. I consider myself to be a holistic counselor. So I focus not only on your mental health, but we pull in your spiritual, we pull in the physical. We take care of the whole body because we are whole human beings. We can't just take care of the mental health and forget everything else. So we focus on all three pillars within the Loving Self Counseling Services platform.
Well, I guess I'll go next since I'm the last one.
Last but not least.
Hello, everyone that is on. My name is Candace Cooper. I am a licensed professional clinical counselor in the state of Kentucky, and I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of in Texas. Goodness gracious. So I do serve both states. So if you want to see me in Kentucky, I can serve you virtually. In Texas, I do both virtual and in person as well. My main job, I currently work for a program called Yes Waiver. And basically what we do is we go into communities and we help youth who have severe mental illnesses like oppositional defiant disorder, major depressive disorder, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, and we basically work with them to stay in their home and prevent them from going to a residential treatment facility. We also prevent them from going to juvenile justice as well as CPS. On the side, like I said, I do private practice as well. I focus on depression, anxiety. Christianity is a big part. I know and I understand that's personal, but also professional. Being able to have a professional that has the scope of practice to be not biased, and being able to recognize where you are, but also recognize where you can go. And so that is what I focus on and what I do, and I enjoy it.
Thank you, Candace. Since you jumped in there, I do want to ask you, what made you go into this field?
Okay. So what made me go into the field is I am a woman who's hearing impaired. So I basically had to deal with special education. I had to deal with different professionals trying to help me be successful in my life. And it got to a point where I had experienced a lot of trauma in my life. I had a high resiliency, but I never knew how to communicate it in the best way possible. And so I had a bunch of therapists that tried their best to get through me, but never really understood where I was going because of my color, my culture. And so I decided, I want to be someone that can do so. I do come from a Christian family that had the headspace of pray it away. However, as I got older, I recognized praying away is not enough for me. It's just not enough. To the point I ended up being in hospitalization, and I was actually diagnosed with major depressive disorder, severe. And so it kind of fueled me to say, okay, you know what? Not only being a Black woman that is not only physically impaired, but mentally impaired, I can challenge people that, it doesn't have to be your label. I think that sometimes we get so caught up with the label, and that's what I did. I got so caught up in the label that I became so stubborn. And I realized, okay, let me break down my walls. Let me, let someone else help me. So I did it, and it was a great experience. So I ended up doing it. And so I have been actually doing it for 6 years now. And I have helped save lives, not only just saying, okay, let's process it, but I also say, okay, let's pray about it, process it. Let me give you tools how to walk through it. And so being able to see that what I've done was effective for myself, I'm able to carry it out as a professional in my personal life.
That's good. So a lot of us, I don't think, realize that we're called to what we've been through.
Yes.
Right. We can really speak to it from the heart, but then God takes us to even get the knowledge so that we can go out into the world. It's not meant to just be held, here or in the church space, but to go out in the world and to really touch hearts there. Ashley, did you want to say something?
No, I was going to say that I 100% agree. Because how are we going to be able to help others? Mm-hmm. Yes, we might have the heart, but how are we going to really help them if we've never been in their shoes?
Yes.
God intentionally puts us through different things so that way we can be that vessel for other people. And as Candace was mentioning, her experience and why she became a therapist, I had similar issues myself. As a teenager, I had thoughts of committing suicide to the point where I was going to act if it was not for my little brother. And it was because of him coming in my room that I was able to realize I need some help. I was going to do something that was going to take this little man away from me. Yeah. And through those experiences, I don't want any other child, especially children of color, to experience the things that we go through or the things that I went through as a kid. And it was my element that was the key for me or not even the key, the stressor for me was my rheumatoid arthritis. At 16 years old, I was diagnosed with this disease that could be very crippling, very painful. Like some days I'm perfectly fine. You would not think that anything's wrong with me. Some days it's extremely hard to get out of bed. So that took a toll on my mental health as well. So being able to live through these experiences and still go through these experiences today, but still want to be able to help others is, I think, my mission and why God gave me this element. Because while it's hard, I can still push through. And I just muted myself. While God's helping me to push through, I can help others push through as well.
I think the biggest thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Hope. I think the biggest thing about those who are in the mental health field, we are focused on enhancing the quality of life of someone else. So if we can find just a glimmer of hope. I love how your name is Hope, but if we can find just a glimmer of hope in someone's life and expound on it and build on it, they can actually change their perspective of their own life and find that hope within themselves. I think one of the biggest key, and Ashley can agree or disagree, we both have different ways of doing things, but the biggest thing that I use is cognitive behavior therapy. And basically what that is we challenge your perspective, your viewpoints. We challenge it. And then when we challenge it, it's not that we're saying we're giving you the answer, because that's not what we do. We challenge it to where you find that answer and you become confident and successful in being able to say, okay, I can do it. Now, I always challenge people when you do that process, it's not going to be a fast thing. I think our generation, in our culture, we're so big on it got to be done right now. It's an instant thing. It has to be done right now. And I think that's why we're so good. We're good at pray it away, because we think that it'll instantly go away when we pray it away. But in this instance, we're teaching you, okay, be patient with yourself, because the Bible does talk about grace, right? So not only be patient with yourself, give yourself grace, but then let's shift the mindset, because the Bible also talks about that, about shifting. Focus on what is lovely, what is pure. Philippians 4, which is my favorite. Focus on those things, and as you're focused on it, we're giving you those tools of how to focus on those such things. And so, I just wanted to expound on that. That is what we are here for as professionals.
Yeah, I know for me, I've done CBT as well as DBT as well, right? And so we know the cognitive behavior therapist.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, which is the cognitive behavior therapy as well as dialectical behavior therapy. Is that the D? Okay, I got you. We there. it has been life changing, right? Because a lot of times, we grow up in those times where it's just like, just do as I do, not do as I say, not as I do, or different things. So we don't have the coping skills, and we have defense mechanisms, but not the coping skills that we need to move forward in our day to day. So I am a huge fan of CBT, especially for those who may have mental health, but also coupled with in chemical dependency, right? So, and
Mm.
I find that even in my own kind of navigation of mental health, very similar to Candace being diagnosed with major depressive disorder, I've realized that sometimes anger is my drug of choice. So CBT, it's phenomenal, and I definitely recommend it. And going back to Hope's original purpose of this conversation is what is not being spoken over the pulpit, right? And yes, I want to change my mindset. Of course, I want to pull down and to cast down and to cast out all imaginations, things of that nature. But what is the practical application? And it has been my experience that working through cognitive behavior therapy, as well as DBT, it's giving me the practical tools to do what the Bible has already commanded me to do.
That's so good, India. I My God, you guys are phenomenal. But one of the questions that was asked in the chat is how do you all protect your mental health while helping others with their mental health? Go ahead, Candace, and then you, Ashley, and then you,
I have
India.
the best way I protect myself is first, I try to make sure I am practicing within my scope of practice. So if I know I cannot provide that service and I know it's going to trigger me, I'm going to professionally say, hey, I'm going to resort you to someone else or refer you out to someone. So that's one way I do protect it. Another way is I have a therapist. My best friend up there, she basically said before we started the show is that if you don't have a therapist, if your therapist does not have a therapist, you got a wrong therapist. You need to get a new therapist. And so I'm a therapist that has a therapist. I see my therapist twice a week because life is stressful. So yes, I see my therapist, and then I try to make sure I'm like Miss India says, I do my coping skills. So whether it may be I'm calling on a friend, maybe I'm going for a walk, maybe I'm journaling. I rely on those so that way I can protect my mental health. So that's what I do to protect me when I'm serving others.
I'm very much similar when it comes to how I protect my mental health or how I take care of my mental health. Again, if your therapist don't have a therapist, you need a new therapist. I am a therapist who has had a therapist and who is still currently in therapy. And the reason for that is because I know that while, yes, I might be a therapist, I'm going to be real, I don't have all the answers. And even though I don't have all the answers and I know my coping skills and I use my coping skills, maybe my therapist can help me figure out something else. Maybe it's not a coping skill that I need, but maybe I just need to get off what's on my chest and get off what's on my heart. Because yes, I can talk to God about it. And yes, he is always there. Yes, he is always listening. But in that moment, that therapist could be speaking to me from him. And I have to keep that in mind. I am the therapist who loves to go hiking. If you call me and you're one of my virtual clients, you like, hey, can we go on a hike? Yes, ma'am, we can. And I also do bubble baths. I take my time away from my children when I have to, because I am a mom of 2 now. My son is 3 months old. So that is very stressful being, having a newborn and a 5-year-old who's in kindergarten, being a working mom. So I have to take my time away and be by myself. And I have to be okay with that. And sometimes that is hard to do, but I have to tell myself, if I'm not good for me, I can't be any good to them.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, to speak to that, I'm not a healthcare professional, but I'm just, regular smuggler degular like everybody else, right? Trying to figure it out. My recent coping skills, oh man, opposite to emotion is my favorite. That's my go-to. Basically whatever the emotion is that's negative, I try to do the opposite. We bless God for emotion and, emotions and doing the opposite. Also, one thing that I am practicing is radical acceptance. Learning that acceptance is not condoning what's happening, but it is accepting what is happening. And by doing that and I'm protecting not only myself, but those who I may be, you know, in communication with. I have to, in order to, like she stated, in order to pour out, I have to be full. And this whole thing on mental health is that we sometimes our cups are not as full as we think they are. You know, sometimes, especially as Black women, we are used to getting to the end and pushing it even further. So sometimes what we think is full, it's we here, right?
We really
So
running on E.
we run in on E, but E has become so comfortable that we don't even realize that we are on E.
Yes.
It's like, I don't have nothing for you or me, Chief, right? And
Yes.
so when you walk into therapy and you're talking to somebody who has an unbiased opinion of you, they can give you an aerial view of what you are experiencing that you don't even realize, because you have just settled into like this nestle of foolishness of running on E, right? So that's is how I would say I protect my mental health. Yeah, by realizing that I got some mental health.
Yes. I feel like we can't be and India, you're a teacher. You do a lot for our kids. So thank you for that. But I just want to say, you know, we do a lot as Black women. We care for everyone. And I think it's so important that, like you both have mentioned, you know, you can't help those if you're not helping yourself. And so it's very important that you make sure you have the appropriate boundaries for yourself, because I think as Black women, we don't always know when to implement it because we're afraid if we're not there, who's going to take care of them? You know, if I'm not there, how can they be successful? And sometimes you have to have not only boundaries for others, but for yourself. And so sometimes I have to ask myself, okay, am I wanting to do this because I can, or am I doing it because I'm crossing boundaries or I'm crossing the line for myself. And so I have to always ask myself, okay, Candace, you need to chill, or Candace, you can do it. And not only doing that, but also asking God, okay, God, is this a good discernment to have? Am I able to do this, or am I able to do that? A lot of times I ask for discernment. My biggest prayer as a therapist is, Lord, give me the wisdom, knowledge, and discernment to know when I'm supposed to do something and when I'm not supposed to do something. It's not only as a professional, but as a person, because I love to love on people. I love to help people. I want people to be successful. I am a recovered people pleaser. And so I want everybody to get all the love that God has for me. And the Lord was like, girl, you need some boundaries. Stop. And I had to learn what that boundary looked like. And so boundaries for me was sometimes, okay, no, I'm sorry, I love you, but no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's like what the philosopher, I believe his name is Viktor Frankl, and he states that between stimulus and response, there is a space, right? And learning how to navigate the space between stimulus and response. I think as Black women, we just kind of, you know, we're off to the races. If I don't, like, to your point, Candace, if I don't do it, it won't be done. It's like, okay, you didn't get on no cross at no time. Like, God got this, you know?
Right.
And we have to, you know, kind of remove ourselves and say, hey, let me re-examine this. Let me place a boundary, not only on them, as you state, but on ourselves as well.
Yeah. Oftentimes we get into this mode of, okay, God, you put me in this position to help people, or you put me in this position to save people. But yes, but at the same time, we didn't say all people. I didn't say that every human being that comes into your path that you have to save. You might have a word for them, but that is not your place. Let me show you who you're meant to help. So like Candace was saying, having that discernment, having the wisdom to know, okay, I can still say no. I can still take care of me. And it's okay. Because again, we can't keep pouring from an empty cup. We're so used to that, especially as women and Black women. We're used to pouring from that empty cup and giving our all to other people. And we can't keep doing that. That's how we keep running ourselves down. That's how we have so many anger, anxieties, and depressions and all these other things, because we're trying to pour from an empty cup. We're not filling ourselves back up and allowing God to fill us back up, more importantly.
Okay.
Yep.
So that way we can keep helping his people, so we can keep saving his people.
So talk about that. What are ways talk about ways that we can prevent that from happening?
Okay, so you want me to go first, Candace?
You can go ahead. You go ahead.
You have to know yourself is the first thing. key thing. You have to know yourself. And sometimes that takes going to therapy and being okay that God placed these professionals in our lives or in our routes for a reason.
Mhm.
Know who you are. Know what your boundaries are. Know, like Candace was saying, that she was a people pleaser. That was a hard lesson that sometimes we don't always want to admit to. So you have to know yourself first. And then secondly, you have to know God.
Mhm.
Those two things are top tier for me, because if I don't know me and I don't know God, where's my direction coming from?
Yep.
Mhm.
And I'll expound on that if that's okay. I think that is basically, as she said, being able, I think the first step to healing is self-awareness, what we always say in therapy, being aware of where you are and, recognizing, okay, this is where I am. Okay. I am being okay in it, because a lot of times I think people don't understand there's two big factors that plays into everything that I've learned and I'm studying as a therapist and as a doctoral student is shame and fear. So
Mhm.
sometimes we're ashamed of what we are going through, and it's a fear of failure, it's a fear of letting go, it's a fear of going through something again. And so when we learn to address those two things, oh, you'll be a powerhouse. And then being able to go to therapy, going to a professional that has the skill set to address those things, but not only to address, because in church, let's talk about it. At church, right? You can go to a pastor, you could pray about it, you say, hey, I need this. Okay. All right. But what happens after you dump all of that? Right? You need something to be put back in. So that's what a therapist come in. So we're able to say, okay, you know, let's walk through this. Okay, tell me more about what you've gone through. Tell me more about what this looked like for you. Tell me more about these things. And that's what we use as a tool. Like, tell me more. So that way you're getting to that point of getting to know yourself. I hope that answered a little bit of that question. That's how we are helping you getting to know yourself, by saying, okay, have you recognizing this? Are you recognizing this? We summarize, okay, you said this. Did you notice that you said this? That's a part of being able to know yourself as well. So being able to go to a professional, but also recognize, hey, I need help, is that's first two steps to be able to get to that point of healing. And not only healing, but also understand in your healing process, it's not linear. I have to say that every
Please do.
Say it again.
because I think people, not only people in the church, not only Black people, not only I had to get to that point myself. It's not linear. I'm a therapist that's had a good day where I'm up on top, and then there's a day where I'm down at the bottom of the barrel. But being okay with that is a part of a healing process. That is your healing, and don't discount yourself. Don't discount yourself of saying, okay, you know what, I'm not healing. No, you're healing. It looks like it's going to be all over the place sometimes. That is okay. That is okay. When you start to unlearn a lot of habits as well, when you start unlearning a lot of things that you've learned growing up or in college or anything that's happened, that's also what makes it powerful about your healing as well. So.
Absolutely. I also too, I think we also kind of get to the point where we feel like a sense of needing permission to heal. And I think we need to come to the understanding, especially those who are Christians, that this will be my comment for believers, is coming to the understanding that it is God's will for you to be healed. That is, He doesn't have a desire for you to walk around as a fraction of who you are, who He has created you to be, right? And so sometimes we kind of get into this mode of, well, if I'm not suffering, then I must not be doing this Christian walk thing correctly. And that's a lie well told, and it's a lie from the pit. Right. And I think we have to debunk the myth that you have to suffer. Of course, we understand that, the Bible tells us that we want to suffer like Christ suffered, right? But I think we kind of take that text and we run with it, and we just do the most, but to understand that he is a good father, that he loves us so much and so well. And as earthly parents, we don't want to see our children hurt. How much more, right, does the father not want to see us that way? So if we're ever looking for the permission to say, do I have to be this way? Can I change this? Do I have to perpetuate this generational curse? And I feel like the father is always like, no, you can always come home. You can always come home. You can always change. You can always shift. You can always be the form and the understanding of who I created you to be at any time, right? And I agree with you, Candace. Healing is not linear, but it is achievable. And I think we have to get to that point where we understand that, hey, I don't have to be broken. I don't have to take what is just given to me. I can go and grab life by the bull by the horns and run with it. Life doesn't come with a remote. You have to get up and change it yourself. And praise God, we do have an advocate, right? And we have someone who, that lives on the inside of us that can say, hey, let's do this. Let me fill your cup. You don't have to fill it by yourself. And I think that we have to understand that his love for us, even in depression, even in anger, even in people pleasing, and I call myself a recovering perfectionist, that his love is still, it's still so, it is engulfing, and it can change, and it is perfect, and it's pure. And so I think that is our steps. Those are our steps forward as well as believers.
So
Can I?
let me go back to you. Well, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick because Tashonda said, wow, the mindset plays a big part in the healing process. I wasn't intending on going in this direction, but I think I know what she means by that. But I really want to understand because all of us, before we got on the call, we talked about all of us experiencing something that brought us to this place of wanting to care for others, right? And in Indiana, I know you said you're not in healthcare, but you do care for others because you're very active in church, and plus the experiences that you had, that's helped you. And I know that you write because that's also a healing process. And so I want to, I personally have done that, but I want to hear what you all have said. These are like kingdom, dangerous, groundbreaking ways of reaching people. And so I really want you all to talk about the things that you've done or are planning to do, working to do to help people with that mindset change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Since you mentioned me, I'll go first if that's okay. My answer to that would be helping myself in this season, to be the best version of India in this season is how I want to move forward in helping others. And to your point, Hope, yeah, I do. I have great interactions with a lot of people, right, on my day to day. But I always will advocate for people going to therapy. I will always advocate for people doing very similar to myself, doing I stated earlier, doing a partial hospitalization, going in and saying, hey, I ain't got it, chief. I ain't got it. So even with, River Culture, even though we don't have any, therapists that we work with or anything like that, but as a coach, to get people where they need to be, and in your finances, getting people to where they need to be, even in our living, right? Some are with virtual assisting, just showing up for someone, doing something that someone else just do not have the capacity to do, right? That is my heart's desire, is to show up and to stand in the gap. I believe that in a lot of ways we are very much intercessors. We can stand in the gap for people. And I think in the realm of mental health, as well as in the realm of the pulpit and what comes across, I think where we kind of come at an even ground is that all of us want to stand in the gap. We want to kind of give someone that bridge over. And so that's what I do, even though I'm physically not in the classroom any at this moment, I still get to stand in the gap. And when you are a teacher and your boots are on the ground, you see, I mean, everything, right? Just very similar to therapists. We are therapists for children, right? and whomever else that you're teaching. So it's always going to be, until I guess God says otherwise, but to be my life's goal to just stand in the gap and to provide services that you need, whatever that looks like in that moment, whatever that looks like in that moment.
Did you all understand the question that I asked? Thank you, India. That was good, because I want to go more into it, but I know y'all got something for me. So go ahead, Ashley, if you want to.
So yes, I think for me, when it comes to like, especially my private practice clients, and some of my students, when it comes to helping them with that mindset change, is to basically teach them that every thought that we have is not your true intention, is not your true thought. We have over millions of thoughts a day. So if we are trying to live by each and every thought, we are not going to make it. So what I do is I try to help teach them that sometimes your mind can be a trick, and sometimes your mind is legitimately helping you. So how can we defer or deter which one is which? So we help go through those. We identify negative thinking patterns or illogical thinking patterns, like, okay, if I step outside, I'm going to die. That's an illogical thought. So let's debunk that. And also I have just different products that I sell all the time to my clients and even to the community, like shirts, positive affirmation shirts, positive affirmation water bottles. And I have a journal out right now that's called the Self-Love Journal. These things are there to be constant reminders for us that I am powerful. I am somebody. I'm loved. So these are the things that I teach my clients and also provide to my clients for the community. So that way we know that it's not just what I'm thinking. I am more than just this.
You said you had a journal, right? That's correct. Did you say that?
Yeah. So right now I have a self-love journal. It's an empty journal that we just, you can write all your thoughts out into. I am in the process of creating the Mommy and Me self-care journal, which comes with 60 different prompts every day for the working mom to go through and answer. You could take 5 minutes, you could take 5 hours. It's up to you. And these prompts are to help you pour back into yourself.
So are you doing, and Candace, I'm coming to you, hold on a second, but are you doing like something online to offer that to people as well?
Yes. So if you follow me on Facebook at Loving Self Counseling, you will see the journals on there, and you're able to order just by simply sending a DM or even just putting in the comment that you would like one, and I will respond to you via your private messages. I am in the process of revamping my website. It's currently down, but it will be back up again with all of the products that I am selling.
Okay. And then India, you're writing in the midst of writing, right?
Yes, I'm writing a book called Diagnosed, and so basically is understanding the past so that you can discover your future. And so it's a inner healing and deliverance book. Yep.
So you're coming from the perspective not only the mental health, but just all the cares of the world, basically.
Yes. So what it does, it essentially it parallels the diagnosis of me being diagnosed with breast cancer, and so it parallels on how to recognize different cancers within your life. So a cancer is just something that has an abnormal growth, right? And so sometimes fear can be an abnormal growth. Sometimes anxiety can be an abnormal growth. So it teaches you to how to uncover. It's called a non-lethal cancer, is what I call it in the book. And it teaches you and walks you through on how to discover discover it, what you do with it, going back to your mindset, shifting, and how to remain essentially, not in remission, but be completely healed from it. And so the book it's just, to Ashley's point, it is self-paced, and by the time you get to the end, you should know what your non-medical cancer is.
That is so good. See, I'm gonna have to have y'all back now. Go ahead, Candace. I know you loaded. Go ahead.
What? What I do is I basically do a lot of advocacy. As a supervisor for Yes Waiver, I basically work with my families of understanding the resources that are out there to make them successful. But not only that, when I do my private practice, I am like Ashley. We pretty much have the similar flow that we have in our therapy sessions. I basically work with their thinking as well, being able to say, okay, yes, you're thinking this, but is it true? I give them a worksheet, and it basically allows them to say, okay, this is the thought, right? And then the middle is like, the middle is the thought, and then the one side is true, and then the other side is false. So I do that so that way it can challenge them to recognize, is it really true, or is it just your mind playing tricks on you as well? I do a lot of coping skills. Positive affirmation is a big one for me, because I know that your word have powers, basically. And so, part of combating those negative thoughts is by pouring in the positive. So I try to get them to use those. I have a bunch of cards. I have a bunch of journals, so the kids can take, the adults can take, so that way they are proactive in doing so. But a lot of advocacy, a lot of, just challenging, okay, it's okay to feel this way. However, I'm not sure if that's really what's happening. Let's see another alternative, but also challenge them to unlearn some things, because I think a lot of times we pick up a lot of things as we go, as growing up or as an adult, and sometimes we get stuck in that place. So it's like, okay, let's unlearn whatever we got stuck, and let's move forward. And also encouraging that moving forward doesn't mean you're going to be quickly healed, but you're in the process. Let's do it together. And I think that's my biggest thing, is just trying to teach them and understand that you're not alone, because that's what's happening, is that they always feel like they're alone. No one understands. Nobody understands their feeling, the thought. And so I am this type where, with healthy boundaries, of course, let's walk through this together as a team, as a unit. So that's pretty much what I do. I feel like they took everything I was going to say. So
I want to piggyback off you for a second, though, Candace.
Yes.
A lot of especially what Candace and I do in our therapy sessions, what I have taught my clients is, over the years, we have learned different things, and those lessons get put down into our subconscious. We don't realize that our subconscious is what drives us. We think it's our conscious mind, and it is not. Your subconscious, those lessons, those thoughts that you have of yourself come from your subconscious. So using positive affirmations, challenging those negative thoughts, what we're doing is putting what I call new nuggets down into your subconscious to change it. Because what we know through science tells us that positives always outweigh negatives. So the more positive things that we put into that subconscious, the more that we're going to overcome those negative lessons or those things that we got stuck in.
Yeah. And sometimes, go ahead. I'm sorry. And sometimes it's not always about, just inputting. We also give that space to allow them to spill out, because a lot of times they have so much built in that they don't always know what to say. And a lot of times people don't go to therapy because they don't know how to articulate their thoughts and feelings. So I always try to give them that space, but not only give them that space, but establish that empathy. We're big for therapists. We're big on empathy, unconditional regards, genuineness, and I forgot the other one, my bad. But that's our biggest foundation that we have. And so we are basically, what we're trying to say is, hey, we may not always understand what you're going through, because you probably went through something I don't understand. However, I can understand. I can do my best to understand, or I pretty much know or studied what you've gone through, and this is how we can do it, and this is how we can go through it together. And not being afraid also to say, hey, I've seen that. I've been there without going too deep. Because if you go too deep, if you have a therapist that go too deep into their stuff, they're not the therapist for you. Okay.
Yes,
but
very true.
making sure that you're providing that safe space to say, hey, I'm dealing with this. And after you, and we have the discernment of knowing when you're done spilling. And then we can say, hey, this is what we're going to start working on. This is a task that I want you to have. We give homework. I'm a big fan of homework or task, because I think you not only want to just work in therapy, you want to see the growth outside of your therapy as well. You want to be able to say, okay, I see the progress I'm making by doing these assignments as well. So that's what I pretty much do. I hope that answers the question.
It did. I think like what I was getting to, what tools are we as caregivers or people that are in the community, what tools are we using to be kingdom dangerous, period. And meaning like, how are we really truly making a dent as leaders in the community to help them heal? And you all, each of you stated that clearly. One of the things that I learned was when I was going through the chaplaincy is the case studies. And I know that, and I'll give an example. I wrote about it. Is a time I went to go see a young lady. She was incarcerated and she was bipolar. And so I didn't have a lot of experience with it. It was my first encounter. So there was fear. How do I address it? How do I minister to her effectively? What all of the components involved? I think when you're a religious person, not religious, I'm not religious, but I'm saying if you believe in the Lord, but you have that religious attitude, and at that particular time, I didn't quite understand it, but I did. Like, we're going to pray it out of you, and not understanding how to deal with that type of illness so that they can be productive people in society. So I had to do a reflection not only upon her behavior, but upon myself. And so and that's when I realized it was fear. It was a lack of understanding of how to help them. But then at that particular time, knowing how to, as a provider, as a caregiver, how to really extend the proper care, and being okay that we're learning along the way. We have to get assistance, right? And then even dealing with people where you might see characteristics of yourself that you're extending care to, and getting assistance there. I like what you said in the beginning. I think it was you, Ashley, saying, I have to really, and I'm paraphrasing it, I need to know where my lane is. If this is not my lane, who to hand? Was that you, Candace, who said that? Who to hand this over to that's a professional in this area? And so sometimes we let our pride get in the way. And what makes me know like this whole conversation is necessary is you all, Ashley, you and Candace, basically described India's book on inner healing and deliverance. You just use different language talking about it. When you were talking about the positive overrides the negative, and we're going to rewire your mindset and how you think from the traumas of your past or the experiences or the things that you're encountering. You're rewiring your mind. And God gives us that ability to do that. He made us uniquely like that. And God is wonderful. There's just it's so vast, so many different ways that he can do that. But he gives us tools to do it. And so this is a powerful combination when you believe in something greater than yourself that can do that. But he also gives you the knowledge to work through that process. And so I really want to, for me, presence is just a gift. That gift of presence, being able to hear. And I think Coach Sherry said that, having an ear to hear. And really being able to hear people when they're going through their traumas, like listening for keywords or watching behaviors and knowing that what they're saying isn't really lining up with what they're feeling or sensing. And so I really want each of you to kind of talk about that piece of it, and then we're going to close out because we're right at our time. So go ahead, Ashley.
I think we have to realize that while, yes, we are Christian women or people who believe in a higher power, we have to remember that when we're praying, that we're asking God for assistance. And just like in the Bible, when they ask for help, their help comes in different forms. It could be a person, it could be a bush, it could be whatever you might need or experience in that moment. To be able to hear God's voice and be able to get that lesson or get that knowledge. And we have to realize that sometimes that might be my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
God placed people in us in situations and people around us for reasons that we might not know the answers to, but we have to be okay with that. I don't know if that was the answer to your question, Hope, but it's something that has been like just in my mind for on this live, that again, in the Bible, God puts people in situations and people who come across their paths are there to help them. And that could be us in therapy.
Yeah. Candace, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to say. Is being open-minded. How God. Oh, I feel like I'm echoing. I'm sorry. Being open-minded to how God does His. I mean, heal. I mean, there's times where God can heal you just by a touch of the hem of His garment, and then there's a time where God just say, "Hey, you need more help," and I place this person to help you. And sometimes it is a form of therapy, and sometimes it's a form of psychiatric help, being able to take medication, but not only taking medication, but being psychoeducated about it. And I think that is important, that help can come in so many forms and so many ways. You just have to be open-minded to the process and understand that, it's okay to feel different. It's okay to feel, scared. But sometimes my motto is do it scared, because you just never know what comes out on the other side of it. When you do scared, you might be getting the results you never thought you needed. And so I think it's important, like Ashley saying, being very open-minded to how God does things, but also you know not only the people receiving the help being open-minded, but also the church being open-minded to go outsource it. It's okay to outsource. If you don't know how to handle it, outsource it. I'm heavy. I was very, very heavy in the church. I still am. Deliverance was a big thing that I did. It was deliverance and counseling. And so Prophet Torrance Solomon, he's well-known deliverance person. And the first thing he saw us was, if you don't know and you're not comfortable, outsource it. Being okay with that. Not, like you said, Ms. Hope, not allowing pride get in the way of someone's healing. So I think that is very important.
Yeah, I love that. I love that outsource. As y'all was speaking, the scripture that came to mind was, I'm paraphrasing, that all things work together for the good of those, right? And sometimes we just need to open our mouth, and we need to, sometimes we are the outsource, right? Sometimes when you start hearing from the same person over and over again, unfortunately, what ends up happening is you get, desensitized to what they're saying. And sometimes that can come in the form of our pastors, the form of our parents, our spouses, our whomever. And so sometimes you need that voice that's just new, fresh eyes, fresh perspective, all of that, right? And to know that the things in which we have dealt with, as we heal, as we grow, and as I said to you ladies earlier when we were talking, I'm still in the thick of it. Sometimes we think that we have to be over it in order for it to work together for our good, right? But God can use all of it, and He does use all of it. And we have to be at a place where we are okay with not looking like how we think we should look, not sounding how we think we should sound, not being, done and finished and, real shiny like. that's not where his glory is. He takes the foolish things of this world to confound the wise, right? So sometimes we got to be willing to be the foolish thing that he is going to use to confound the wise. And sometimes that foolishness can look like, I'm gonna go and sit on somebody's couch, even though my mom and them told me that all I gotta do is just say Jesus, 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 Jesus. And you like, I don't want to hear none of that. I can't listen to the folk that's bound to tell me how to get free. We can't do that. Let me go get free and then I come back for the rest of y'all. So I think that, to both Ashley and Candace's point, I think staying in our lane, like my mother would always say, stay in your lane, work with your equipment, but outsource when need be, but also keep in mind and being open to how God is moving to the fact that you might be the outsource.
You definitely tie that in a beautiful bow.
I like that. Yeah. Let me ask one more question. I should have said this, that we were at the end. I just want to ask one more question though. Listen, in the beginning when I opened up and I talked about COVID, and people don't talk. Even at the first live, I talked about it. People are not talking about the after effects of it. Long COVID, the anxiety has been crazy that we've seen in people now. And just even, I think Deb mentioned in the chat, she was talking about the prisons, the treatment centers, the homeless shelters need advocates so bad. And so like we're at a time where the advocates that were the ones that were actually helping people have bowed out because they were so traumatized by the impact of COVID, right? When the time that I spent in the hospital, I watched nurses come off of the floor after a person transitioning, ministering to the family members and the patient themselves. And they would go in a corner and they would cry and then they would move on. Or as they're crying, they're preparing to go to the next patient. And so I looked at that and the Lord like put something on my heart to really like develop something to minister to those that are in the community that are serving in mental health areas, in hospitals, taking care of patients, things like that. I need for you all to, if you have something, if you don't, that's fine. Do you have a suggestion on how do we, just 2 minutes, how can we care for ourselves? What signs can we look for as we're going through this process where we really need to get some help in the sense of the anxiety? And I know this question is really broad, but I just want you to touch on it if you can. And whoever wants to go first is fine.
Ashley can go.
If you are starting to recognize changes in yourself, whether that be I'm not sleeping like I used to, I'm not eating like I'm used to, I'm more irritable than what I used to be, I'm lashing out on people, fill in those blanks. If you are different than what you were 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, that is a clear indication or a clear sign that you might need to start taking some help, or that you might need to practice some self-care. One of the two. Because whatever situations you are going through in that moment, it is changing you. If it affects any of those pieces of you, sleep, eating, mindset, if it changes you, you're going through some things and you need some help.
Yes, what she said. I think us community, we like to put labels on things, and the label for that is burnout. And like Ashley listed out, if you're noticing you're irritable, if you're exhausted, those are signs of burnout. And I'm a doctoral student actually learning about the aftermath of COVID as a dissertation. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed about that is with burnout and with those changes, that is actually very much common in human service field than people think or realize. And a lot of times when we serve population, they get upset because they're like, why are y'all always short staffed? Or why is that always happening? And we have to, help people recognize, people that serve human services are human too. And we have limitations as well. And I think as professionals, we have to be able to not only recognize it, but as our colleagues or anybody that works with them, being able to have that relationship and say, hey, hey sis, hey bro, I see you on the verge of burnout. How can I help you? I think that is the biggest thing that I am working on in my department right now, because we are short staffed. I'll be honest, we're short staffed. And so one of the biggest things I'm doing right now actually is I'm doing check-ins with all my supervisees. Hey, how are you? How are you feeling? I do a temperature check on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you? Are you burnout? On a 1 is I'm calm, 10 is you got to be out the door. I also try to encourage my people, use your sick time. I don't need to know unless it's past 3 days. I don't even know why you're taking your sick time. Take time for yourself because it is a lot. I'll be transparent. I don't know. Ashley said it's draining. When you pour, it's draining. It's very draining. And so you have to be aware when you're getting to that point of drainage, but also be people that can also say, hey, I see you. I think human service as well, don't always feel seen because we're so service demand. We got to demand, we got to hit, we got benchmarks, we got to hit, right? And it's about saving lives, But again, we go back to the point of how do we save lives if we're not saving our own lives? How can I help you if I'm not pouring my cup? If I'm pouring out of my empty cup, I'm giving you dirt, I'm giving you rocks, I'm giving you ashes, and you're not going to be able to fully benefit what I can give. And so it's very important. Like I said, I keep going back to it, but having that self-awareness, hey, I'm tired, I'm burned out, and being able to also, as colleagues, psychoeducate, hey, this is what burnout looks like. This is what stress looks like. This is the consequences of stress. This is the consequences of burnout. This is how you can do it. These are some coping skills. These are some strategies. I think one of the biggest things once I'm done with doctoral program is I want to go to different companies and start embedding in their company about, hey, burnout, let's address it. You're saying you're short staffed, but this is why. Let's talk about it. And then nobody's talking about it. So being able to, 1, have the self-awareness, 2, help them out, but 3, have those hard conversations about it, because no one wants to do it because they're like, I'm afraid I'm gonna fail my family. I'm afraid that I'm gonna fail my company. I'm afraid that I'm gonna fail myself. Let's address the fear. Let's address the fear. Let's talk about it. And let's not only talk about it, let's do something about it.
A lot of what you're talking about, Candace, is, what you and I always talk about individually is how can we build that coping skills tool belt? How can I ensure that I have all the tools that I need to take care of me, my mental, my physical, my spiritual, and not get burnt out? Or if I'm starting to recognize those signs of burnout, what tool can I pull out of this tool belt to make me feel better? So we have to ensure that we are building that tool belt and recognize that what coping skill might work in one situation is not going to work in the other. So that's why we have to have a toolkit. And what might work today might not work tomorrow because I might be over that by then. So I need something else.
Preach.
We have to be able to build that toolkit or that tool belt so that way we can pull from it.
Can I just one more thing? What she said is so real because that is the common theme I get with my clients, my kids. They be like, I tried all these things and it don't work. And I be like, did you try this? Did you try that? I think people don't understand coping skill is a boat. It's so broad. It's a boatload of different things. But it's cool to have a toolkit, but you have to be willing to try. I think
it's also like you said, it's a skill. So we have to keep practicing this skill. It might not work today, but 5 days from now, it might work. So don't give up on it just because it didn't work in that moment. Yep. Put that tool to the side, use something else, and then come back to that tool again later and see if you need it.
Period.
Go
I
ahead,
say
India.
30
Jump in.
days. Try 30 days. It's just like
I'm
medication.
enjoying it. That's why I was like, let them keep going.
Yeah,
No,
okay. If you go to a psychiatrist, I'm gonna keep it a whole book. If you go to a trainer, let's go a physical trainer. Let's put it in real life perspective. You go to a trainer, right? And the trainer's like, I want you to do this exercise, okay? Mom, I'll be real. I'll be like, why am I doing this? And why? And what's this supposed to do? And how is this supposed to help me? I don't want to do it. And then he's
Right.
like, okay, just keep doing it. I'll give you 30 to 60 days. See how you feel about it. And as I go, I'm like, okay, I still don't see the results, but I'm going to keep going. I still don't see the results. But after day 30, I was like, oh, there go that 1 pound coming off of me. Oh, okay, here's another pound. Now I'm skinny mini. And I think that's really what it is being able to be consistent. Consistency is a big thing. Just as much as we're consistent about serving, you got to put that same energy back. You got to be consistent with using the tools for yourself.
Come on. Come on.
That's true. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be real quick with y'all. I remember, and going back to Candace's point about psychoeducating, I remember like we talking probably like 2016, 17. Like my sister was like, I think you're depressed. And I'm like, I'm not depressed. Like sis whole time went and got a whole dictionary and was like, let's look it up. And like read out the definition to me. I'm like, you sure right. You know what? Now that you say that, so sometimes it's just education, the lack there or the lack thereof, right? It is because of lack of knowledge that my people are perishing, right? So I think sometimes just educating, going back to what Ashley was saying about working in my lane. I'm from up north, right? So what I understand is we have a lot of high functioning anxiety, and what that looks like is just like we're just in a constant state of movement, right? But one thing I learned as a person who, recognizes that, and I know that's my lane. One thing that is there is our mind and our thoughts, right? Because our mind, they're moving quickly, but they are there even when we are functioning at a very high level of anxiety. So to go back to Hope's question, like something to pinpoint, when those irrational thoughts start to make sense, you won't that would be your sign. That's the sign you've been waiting for. When things that you would have never even considered starts to like, yeah, that's what you've been waiting on. Because sometimes in the unfortunate part, when you are as high functioning as most of us are, as we talked about in earlier parts of this conversation, it does take that radical. Some people are like, well, I didn't know. How could you not know? I didn't have enough time in my day to know. I got kids. I got a husband. I got to put food on this table. I got to go to work. I don't have time to be depressed. I don't have time to be anxious. I don't have time to wallow in self-pity. So by the time I do have time, you can go ahead and stick a fork in it, because we at the end, right? So I think just being hyper vigilant with ourselves, having the accountability of our friends and our family, having these type of conversations in open forum. It does no good if we're having these at our house, but no one else in the commerce is actually hearing about it. We need to, they loud about everything else. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot more smaller groups that seem loud, seem bigger, but they're not bigger. They're just louder. And so we are the Christians. We are the ones who have the answers. We are the ones who have the knowledge. We got the key. We got all of that, but we at the house talking about it. And it's like, nah, we got to start having to hope, this is phenomenal. Everything that God has given you is just phenomenal, because it's these conversations that's going to set the captives free. Because the enemy is banking on the fact that we're not having these conversations. He's banking on the fact that we going to cower and hide. He's banking on the fact that we going to tuck our tails and run home. But the devil is a liar, and so is his mama. We're not doing that. We can talk about it. We can say, what's really going on, And like that iron sharpen the iron, we overcome by the blood of the lamb and the word of our testimony. A lot of times we can't get healed because people are not even telling what they're going through. And the enemy is like, yeah, see, you the only one that's dealing with it. Yeah, see, it's like, nah, bruh, I can't be the only one, right? I cannot be. There is no temptation on earth that is uncommon to men. I cannot be the only one. So yeah, just accountability, having conversations, having the hard conversations, and somebody somewhere is going to listen. They may not be the one going back to the skills. It may not work today, but somebody somewhere is going to listen. Keep telling your story. Keep doing it. You didn't go through that for you and for you to take it and just put it in your closet. Like, nah, share it. If that just helped one person, then to God be the glory. So yeah, just keep pressing.
Yeah.
I loved when
Thank
you
you.
said, India, that when those irrational thoughts start to make sense, that's when you need that help. Because it's really, especially like you were saying, like for Black women, it's not until that happens that we like, oh, wait, something's not right. And I want to piggyback off of that, because if you start to have those thoughts of, I'll be better off dead, or I don't want to deal with this person, he should be gone off this earth, those type of thoughts of self-harm to yourself or harm to others, those also a key indicator that you need to get help immediately.
Yes, immediately.
That part, immediately, because you are at danger. You are in danger. So you need to go skip the therapist part, skip the friends, skip the family. Hate to say it this way, but gotta go to that hospital,
Please.
and get the help that you need, so that way you can still hear God's voice later. Because you don't want to be knocking at him on them pearly gates saying, I don't know what happened.
Yes.
I'm here now.
Yes. Please.
I'm just here now.
Yeah, please.
Please.
But allow him to allow him to use you to get that help by those professionals that we were talking about before, in that immediate setting, so that way you can keep telling that story. So that way you can keep going back and helping other people.
Yes. And the beauty about that setting,
Take God with you
is-
to the hospital. Take God with you.
Yes. Take him with
Take
you.
God with
Not
you.
skip it.
Yes.
Take
You went to the
you go to the hospital.
Mhm.
But the beauty about that intermittent setting is that in those inpatient hospitalization, we have group therapy. So that, number one, you're not alone. You are around people that is going through the same thing. We also have a chaplain in those inpatient hospitals. So if you want to pray in the midst of that, they can. You are surrounded. It's very collaborative. It's a team's goal-oriented setting. So you have your psychiatrist, you have your nurse, you have your technicians, you have your therapist, you have all these people. They allow you to talk to your family while you're in there. You're allowed to have a Bible. You're allowed to go to all of these things. So you can get the help, but get that help immediately, because your life has purpose
Mhm.
and you matter. And that is the best way to know that you matters, when you go to an inpatient hospitalization. I am a firm believer of it, and I went, and it saved my life. So if I know it saved my life, it'll save everyone else's life.
Yeah. And I've done a partial hospitalization where I got to go home every day, and it saved my life because those thoughts was making real sense. And I said, "Ooh, I'm going today." I didn't even know there was an urgent care for a crisis. And I was like, wow. And it was like 8 minutes from my house. Like, who knew that the help was that close, right? You don't know unless you don't know until you know, right? So yeah, just go and get the help. And I know it can be weird and sometimes it's stigma, but you're gonna be all right. You're needed, you're valued, and we need you here. We don't want to tell you your story. We
Yes.
want you to tell your story. We don't want to utilize you. We want to hear the testimony.
Amen.
Amen.
We are over our time. We are way over, and we can keep talking, right?
Right.
But if you could please, each of you, say how people can reach you if they want to be a part of your ministry, your business, or they need some type of assistance, want to ask questions. So Ashley, can you let people know how they can get in contact with you?
Sure. You can reach me on Facebook and Instagram at Loving Self Counseling. But if you are wanting to do therapy services, you have questions, or just need some support, you are always able to email me at awormley@lovingselfcounseling.org. And I can put that in the chat if you guys would like for that.
Yeah, please do that. Candace, go ahead.
Oh, hello. Okay. If you're in the state of Kentucky and Texas and you would like to do therapy, I do have my contact information. You can call me at 972-460-6402. You can call me, you can schedule an appointment that way. I don't have any social media. I am in the process of putting my website on, my information on Psychology Today. That's how you can get a hold of me. It's coming tomorrow, I promise. But yeah, you can call me at that phone number, and that's how I can set up an appointment for both Kentucky and Texas.
That's okay. We'll have you back. You can give us more information then. So, and then India, how do we get in contact with you?
You guys can get in contact with me on Instagram. It is River Culture LLC over on Instagram. You also can go to my website at riverculturerealty.com, where you can schedule your free consultation. We can help you with either virtual assisting or financial literacy.
Amen. Thank you all so much. All of you are so loaded with information. We didn't have enough time, so we're going to have to do this again. I really appreciate you for coming on, because you off the cuff answered my questions. They were nothing like the ones that I had sent you. So I'm very thankful that you were flexible, and really appreciate you coming on to share your stories and your wisdom. If India, could you close us out in prayer, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure can. Thanks again, Hope, for having me. Appreciate it, and having all of us.
Absolutely.
All right. God, we thank you for this time. We thank you for your love. We thank you for every person that is on the live as well, that will be on the replay. God, we ask that you would just go before us. Oh God, we ask, oh God, that you would just give us revelation concerning our mental health, God. We thank you, oh God, that you have given us everything that we need, oh God. We thank you for the tools, the resources, and just the provisions. God, we ask, oh God, as we leave this place, but never from your presence, that we will find our homes in better shape than we left. And we bless you. We praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all so much. You're getting a lot of good feedback. I said, great job. Part 2. Awesome job, ladies. Very informative. So yeah, please share. If you want to share your information to me in email, I'll also put it in the chat, because I also do it on Instagram. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. God bless y'all.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.